Morning, everyone. I want to thank you, Juan Ramon and Claire, board members, distinguished guests, friends. This is a very exciting day for all of us in the Aspen family. I apologize that I will speak in English. I have 4 daughters, all of whom speak Spanish, and I think they like it that they can speak with each other about me without me understanding. But perhaps one of these times I will have the courage to speak to you in Spanish. I hope you have enjoyed that short video. You have seen some of the beautiful campus that we have in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, but also I think something of the range and depth, the nonpartisanship, and the variety of the many offerings that we have been providing to many different audiences now for almost 65 years. But I have absolutely no doubt that 65 years from today, from this launch of Aspen Institute Mexico, that its contributions to Mexico, to the Americas, and to the world will be just as great, if not greater, than what we have already seen in our first 65 years. As you've seen, the Aspen Institute in the United States produces policy work, public and private convenings and seminars, gatherings of leading thinkers, scholars, politicians, business leaders, journalists, and committed citizens, as well, and very importantly, seminars and programs for young leaders, for the leaders of the next generation, just as Aspen Institute Mexico will do. And we do that not just in the United States, but all around the globe. So the young leaders that Aspen Institute Mexico will assemble will have a cadre of other young leaders from all across the world to share experiences and ideas with. Our goal is really very simple. It's to foster better leadership in all sectors of society by providing nonpartisan venues and high-quality education about the critical issues facing our time. In much of what we do, we sponsor values-based discussions and debates to encourage people to respect the principled views of others, to refine their own values in the context of other people's values, and then, whenever possible, to seek common ground with the aim of improving our politics, our civil society, our communities, our businesses, our enterprises, our families, our nations, and our international relations. We know that good leadership grows by example. So Aspen Institute Mexico is off to an enormously good start because of the leadership of its board and its executives. This has also been the history of the other Aspen Institutes around the world. Its leadership has always been stellar and diverse, with inspired founders and early directors, including, for example, the chairman of Fiat in Italy, of Fuji Xerox in Japan, many of the titans of industry in India, a former prime minister of France, a foreign minister and former NATO general secretary in Spain, a parliamentarian and presidential candidate in Romania, a leading diplomat in the Czech Republic. Your leadership here inspires great confidence that it will instill a strong culture of values-based leadership that will bring substantial benefit to Mexico's equitable growth domestically and to its growing stature in the world and its increasing influence in the world. But I think most important, it will provide an environment for its young generation of the leaders who will be taking the positions of leadership in Mexico in the future. Let me just briefly highlight some of the things that our international partners have already championed. Aspen, Germany, which will be celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, and our first overseas partner, began as a critical beacon of freedom and liberty and dialogue in divided Berlin in the height of the Cold War. And it provided some of the most exciting and important dialogue in that very difficult time of European history. Since the fall of the wall, it has matured with Germany and provided some of the most important discussions about the transatlantic relationship. And it continues to be very vigorous now as it begins its 5th decade. Aspen Italia, in its 30th year, has grown to be perhaps our largest overseas partner until I'm sure Aspen Mexico will pass it in the very near future. It virtually defines nonpartisanship, with Aspen Italian members in virtually every new Italian government. And those of you who know anything about Italian politics know that that happens with great frequency. Aspen France is also having an anniversary year. It has focused in particular on West Africa, and it's also done extraordinarily important work with young political leaders to instill in them values that will allow French politics to operate with less partisanship and animosity. Aspen Japan has focused on values-based leadership, especially among the business sector, business executives and managers, but in recent years it has also expanded its work to high school students, bringing incredibly rich dialogue to public education in Japan. Aspen India has become one of the leading civil society enterprises in the world's largest democracy. Its dialogues on energy and the environment have been of great importance, as have its many dialogues between the United States and India on issues such as energy, and it has also championed young leaders programs. Aspen Romania, a new democracy in Eastern Europe, has developed one of the most prominent cultural and political forums anywhere in Eastern Europe, and like all the other Aspens, has developed an extraordinary group of young leaders, including young leaders from other newly emergent countries coming out of a communist tradition and trying to build an important and vigorous civil society. Aspen Prague has done important work, for example, on the safety of nuclear energy, and it's reached out to neighboring countries, Poland, Hungary, and Slovakia, and now also Ukraine, to bring them together in dialogues about how to improve that country. And a partner that you've already been introduced to its Secretary General, of course, that offers tremendous amount to Aspen Mexico and vice versa, is Aspen España. Still a relatively young Aspen Institute, it has already created an extremely vigorous program for young leaders, has created seminars that bring people to Spain from all over Europe, has established a program for young elected leaders, and it's also trying to foster a culture of entrepreneurship in Spain. Our various Aspen Institutes also have done things collaboratively. For example, Aspen Spain and Aspen Italy and other European Aspens have created a very important dialogue in the Mediterranean, bringing people from the northern countries along with the predominantly Arab countries in the south of the Mediterranean. And as a matter of fact, later this spring, representatives from 7 different Arab countries will be joining in Cordoba, Spain, to discuss very critical common issues. So what will the Aspen Institute Mexico mean for Mexico? Well, I think it's going to mean many, many things. But first, and I think very importantly for you all to understand, is that the Aspen Institute Mexico is legally, financially, operationally Mexican. It is an independent organization. This is nothing like an affiliate. It is not like a franchise. It is not like a branch. It is a thoroughly Mexican institution, sharing the name Aspen because of common values. So it will be entirely up to you in Mexico to chart the course for Aspen Mexico. This is a very important, unique aspect of what the Aspen Network means, and I hope you will understand that. And I want to, just to recognize again one person whom Claire recognized, because he has really been the leader of Aspen's expansion internationally, and that is my friend Leonard Lauder, who has been a trustee for many decades, for several decades, and has been, and has really been the guiding spirit to bring the Aspen method, the Aspen values around the world. And I think it's also important to understand something else that's different about the launch of Aspen Mexico. The other Aspen Institutes, by and large, have been created when someone from that country comes to something that we have sponsored in the United States, typically in Aspen, and said, my country could benefit from something like that. So that's how things like France and more recently Romania were established. It's not that our board said we should have an Aspen Institute in Romania. The Romanians came to us and said we want one. Once we had a critical mass of these important institutions around the world, our board, under Leonard's leadership, said, where should we have an Aspen Institute where we don't? What leading democracy in the world of great importance doesn't have something like an Aspen Institute and should? And the first country we identified, the most important country we identified for that was Mexico. And so that is really why we're here, and we thank Leonard again for that. So like all the other Aspens I've mentioned, Aspen Institute Mexico will, I'm sure, be a unique and nonpartisan forum for discussing the leadership challenges of this nation. It is the first institution of its kind in Mexico, and I expect, though, that it will actually set a path for other similar kinds of civil society institutions to develop in Mexico and to assist as Mexico assumes its position of geopolitical leadership, which is inevitable and important. It will provide a secure environment for new ideas to flourish, to keep Mexico competitive and make sure it's as innovative as possible. And it will also be, unquestionably, a bridge for better understanding between Mexico and the United States, two neighboring countries that so sadly often do not understand each other well. And I think Aspen can make a huge difference in that very important direction. We have been working closely now for almost 3 years to make this day possible, to find the right partners here in Mexico. And this was something, frankly, that my wife, who I'm glad is here with me as well, we also had a personal stake in, because we're proud to say that we are part-time residents of Mexico, and we would like increasingly to be residents here even longer than we already have been. So we love this country, and we recognize that it is of growing importance to the world. Also, I was honored to speak at La Ciudad de Ideas in Puebla 2 years ago, and I was so impressed by the quality of that convening and how similar it is in spirit to what we do ourselves in Aspen, Colorado, that I knew that we had the right kind of partners possible right here in Mexico. We have also sponsored collaboratively a program in freedom of communication and the importance of a free media everywhere in Latin America. And we again saw through that kindred spirits and a recognition that this could take root here in Mexico very, very well. Now that Aspen, Mexico is a reality, there is the opportunity to see collaboration really across the full spectrum of what the Aspen Institute does. As mentioned in the video that you saw a few minutes ago, we have more than 30 policy programs that do important work and that in many cases would enjoy very much the opportunities to collaborate in this country. Just a few as an example that offer obvious contributions. We have one on health, medicine, and society that focuses on equitable access to affordable and high-quality health care, which is an issue for all countries, and we can perhaps share and frankly learn from Mexico in that regard as well. Education. You have enormous challenges in education in this country. We do in the United States as well. We have, especially in our large cities and our public education, terrible problems. And we have a program at Aspen that's focused on providing innovative new kinds of educational opportunity, especially for the least advantaged Americans. And I think perhaps there can be sharing in that critical area as well. We also have a program that focuses on poverty and economic opportunity, especially through a focus on women and their children, poor women and their children, and ways to elevate them together and provide them greater opportunity. We have a program called Justice and Society that focuses on critical issues like the rule of law, freedom of speech, privacy, and security, issues that are very important, especially in this internet age. And I see great possibilities for collaboration there. We also have had for several decades a program on energy and the environment. And I look at all of our common environmental challenges, whether it's climate change, whether it's sustainable agriculture, sustainable fishing, conservation, alternative energy, protecting our ocean resources. Those offer ripe opportunities for us to collaborate and accomplish a great deal. But while all these opportunities are exciting and can be invigorating, I remind you again that Aspen Institute Mexico is an independent and Mexican entity focused on building an ever greater Mexico. We are proud and we will be thrilled to watch its growth and its stature and its influence and to participate as often as invited. I wish, on behalf of all of my colleagues in the management of the Aspen Institute, including our CEO and President, Walter Isaacson, who is arriving later today and will speak to many of your young leaders tomorrow, I extend on all of our behalf our heartiest congratulations. Thank you.